agent may suggest listing your home privately before it ever hits Zillow. But is that actually helping you or helping them? I'm Jamie Herring with the Herring Homes team at Coldwell Banker Realty, and today I'm breaking down the private listing network, what it is, who it's for, who it could hurt, and why it's suddenly all over the news right now here in Chicago. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what questions you need to ask your realtor before you ever sign a listing agreement. So what is the private listing network, and why is it in the news right now? So let's start with why everyone in real estate is talking about this. So a few weeks ago, I did an Instagram reel about the drama between MRED, that's our local MLS, the Midwest Real Estate Data System that nearly serves 50,000 agents here in Chicagoland, and a battle brewing with Zillow and Compass. Here's the update. On May 12, 2026, Zillow filed a federal antitrust lawsuit right here in Chicago against MRED and Compass. The allegation that the two coordinated to threaten cutting off all Chicagoland listing data from Zillow unless Zillow agreed to display Compass private listings nationwide. Now that lawsuit is working its way through the courts, but what it makes clear is this: the private listing network isn't just a local quirk. MRED's PLN is actually one of the most sophisticated private listing systems in the country, and it was literally born here in Chicago back in 2016. So what actually is the private listing network, or PLN? So the PLN is a feature built into MRED, our MLS, that lets a listing agent share a property with every other MLS subscriber, meaning that every licensed agent in Chicagoland can see it and bring buyers to it, but the home does not appear on public portals like Zillow or Realtor.com or Redfin. Think of it as a professional network, agent to agent, not public. According to MRED's own data, PLN listings stayed private an average of 9 to 17 days in 2024 and represented about 16% of MRED's business, roughly 30,000 listings. Robert Refkin, the CEO of Compass, and full disclosure, Coldwell Banker is owned by Compass International Holdings, which is now the largest real estate brokerage in the world because it acquired Anywhere Real Estate, which Coldwell Banker is part of, has been the loudest voice defending this approach. Here's his take. I believe buyers have the right to know what attributes of the house are real and accurate, and I don't believe buyers have the right to know days on market and price drop history. You can't buy days on market, and you can't buy price drop history. You buy the attributes of that house. That was Robert Refkin, chairman of CEO Compass International Holdings, from CNN, April 2026. I'll come back to that idea because it's actually central to why some sellers should absolutely use the PLN and why others should maybe not. So why do some sellers choose it? So why would a seller ever want fewer people seeing their home? It seems counterintuitive, right? Well, more eyes equals more offers. Well, we'll get to that, right? But there are some very legitimate reasons sellers go to the private listing network first. First of all, privacy. Some sellers, executive, public figures, people going through a divorce or financial hardship, they don't want their neighbors, their co-workers, or the general public knowing their home is for sale. The PLN keeps it within the professional community, controlling the narrative, right? Once a home hits Zillow, the clock starts. Days on market tick by. You're going to have people driving by the house. Price changes get recorded. Every curious neighbor can click on the house and see your asking price and see all the photos. The PLN gives sellers a layer of control over the story. They get to test the waters. This is one of the most things I find valuable, and I want to spend some time on it because it gets to the biggest strategic advantage of the two-phase approach of PLN first and then going fully public. So the biggest advantage of this two-phase strategy, which is what I recommend, is that you start in the private listing network. You test the price, you test the feedback, and then you go live clean without accumulated days on market. So here's something that nobody ever clearly talks about enough. Pricing a home isn't a science, it's an educated estimate based on comps, condition, and the current market. And sometimes even the best prep, you get feedback in the first 2 weeks that tell you that you've priced too high. On the open market, that costs you something. You have accumulated days on market. And days on market is stigmatizing. Buyers see 40 days on market and they know the market is bananas, and they immediately wonder what's wrong with the house. Why hasn't it sold? And then they don't even want to come see it. So even if the answer is simply you are priced 5, 10, 15,000 too high. So how the two-phase approach works. Phase 1, you put your house in the PLN. Every agent in MRED can see your listing. You can put photos, you cannot put photos. You put enough details as you want, but it's an abbreviated listing description. So now you're testing the price and presentation with real buyers. You can have showings, you cannot have showings, but you have 0 public days on market. Okay, so this is a great way to test the price. So I had clients that put their house in the private listing network. We pushed the price a little bit. They knew it, I knew it. We had a number of showings and all the feedback was it's priced too high. And when you get that general feedback of like, it's nice, we want to wait, that's usually saying it's the price without saying it's the price. So we reduced the price quite a bit. We went live in the MLS and we ended up with lots of showings, multiple offers, and we sold it above that asking price. So in this case, the PLN was great for them. They don't have regrets that they didn't try, because I hear that a lot. I have sellers who will say, oh, I should have tried pricing it more. And so this solves that issue for them. So that in a nutshell is why a thoughtful two-phase approach can be incredibly powerful for the right seller. And also, it allows you to market the home first. So if I market a home publicly, it has to be in the private listing network or the public side of the MLS within 24 hours. That's our rule. And other agents will watch to see if you're doing it. So I like to put in the PLN, market the home. I will do coming soon, and I'll put it in Facebook groups, and I'll send it to other realtors, and I'll send out email blasts, and I'll send it to buyers. It's part of my marketing package. And then we build up this anticipation. Maybe we don't allow showings during that time. We go fully live, and so many buyers already have it bookmarked and they're ready to see it, and they make sure they get in there that first weekend, which then helps my seller create more activity and interest in their house, and ultimately helps them sell for more money. So what's the biggest risk of the PLN? I promised you a balanced look, and here it is. The biggest risk of the private listing strategy is just lower exposure. The pool of buyers is smaller by design. When you're in the PLN, you only have buyers who are working with a licensed agent who can find that house. That sounds fine, but you have to think about what you're missing too. The buyer who's just casually browsing Zillow or homes.com and who falls in love with your house, they're not going to see it. The out-of-state buyer using Redfin to find their next home remotely, they're not going to see it. The first-time buyer who isn't working with an agent yet but who is actively looking, they're not going to see it. Anyone who sees a for sale sign on the portal and reaches out directly might not see it because there may not be a for sale sign. So many buyers start their home search on Zillow or Redfin, and when it's in the PLN, they can't see it, and that's not a small thing. So you need to consider that as well. The competition argument is really basic economics. More competing buyers generally equals a higher sales price. If your goal is to create a bidding war, a true feeding frenzy with 10, 15, 20 offers, the open market is almost always going to produce that better than any private network. So what does the research actually show? Multiple studies, including ones from NAR, National Association of Realtors, and independent real estate researchers, have consistently shown that homes marketed on the MLS sell for more than off-market properties. Okay, there's lots to consider here, right? The gap varies, but estimates typically range from 1% to 6% more on the open market. That's not a small number on a $400,000 or $600,000 home. A 3% difference on a $500,000 home is $15,000 that stays in your pocket, or doesn't, depending on where you started your listing. Now, this is important. That data reflects homes that never went public. The two-phase strategy I described isn't the same as staying private permanently, okay? The idea is to use the PLN as a launch pad, as a testing period, then move to full public exposure. That's how I like to do it for my clients. That's a different conversation than a seller who just stays off market entirely. So who should consider the PLN? Well, based on everything we've covered, here's who I think the PLN is genuinely right for. The seller who needs to test the price, that's a great place to start. My sellers very much appreciated that. If you and your agent aren't completely aligned on the price, or if comps are thin and you're genuinely uncertain about the market's reaction, the PLN will give you live and real feedback from buyers and their agents without public consequences. The seller who values their privacy. If you don't want your address on Zillow for all to see, or if you're a public figure, or you're going through a life transition, or you simply don't want the internet knowing your business, the PLN is built for you. The seller who wants a serious buyer pool. Every buyer who sees a PLN listing is working with a licensed agent. That filters out the looky-loos, people who browse Zillow at midnight, people from the couch who are just checking out Redfin, people with no real intention to buy. They just love real estate, and I get it, I love it too. But you'll get serious pre-qualified traffic, the coming soon seller. If your home isn't quite ready, let's say you're finishing painting, you're staging, you're waiting on a repair, the private listing network lets you generate agent interest and schedule showings if you want them now, so that you have momentum the day you officially go live. And I wanted to tell you a story. So I had a house in Prospect Heights, Illinois, and it was a very unique property, like an English cottage, and we elected not to go fully live. It was not ready. It was an estate sale. It was full of lots of fun things. It was not clean, okay? And we weren't gonna do that before we went live. So we said, let's test it in the PLN. I put it in the PLN. We had 50 showings just from agents. We had 15 offers. We sold it for almost $75,000 over asking price, which is what I anticipated. But the reason is that everyone who came there was ready to go. They were looking for a house like this. This wasn't a cookie cutter house. They knew there was an upsell potential there because it was in such a great neighborhood. And so the PLN, now that's not what happens every single time, but the PLN kept everyone who was there very serious. To have 15 offers is a very serious conversation. And my phone is still ringing of people who are like, so they're thinking about it. Can we be a backup? Sure, but we have 14 other backups. So when it's a house like that, in this case, it worked really well. So who should not use the PLN? I'll be direct here because this matters just as much as who should use the PLN. Sellers who want the bidding war. You've been waiting to put your house on the market. You want the bidding war. You want maximum competition, the feeding frenzy, multiple offers, people waiving contingencies, cash offers, escalation clauses, appraisal gap waivers. You want the rights to name their firstborn child. That is the open market, and that will always be best for that type of person. Broad public exposure creates that kind of energy. An open house with cars down the street. The PLN is a different audience. Crazy Illinois market, which is definitely a seller's market right now, the pendulum will swing back the other way. And when it becomes a more balanced market or a buyer's market, and when inventory is high and buyers have more options, you need every advantage. So limiting your exposure in a soft market can mean sitting much longer and eventually selling for less. So sellers who are price confident and ready, if your prep work is done, the pricing is right on, honed in, nailed, and you're ready to launch, just go. Get every set of your eyes on your home from day one. Regardless of what your agent recommends, here are the questions I think every seller should ask before agreeing to the private listing network. So how long will we stay in the PLN before going public? And what triggers that move? Usually for me, it's staging and photography. What metrics are we tracking during the PLN phase? Showings, feedback, interest level? If we reduce the price privately, does that reset our days on market to 0 when we go live? Are you listing me as a coming soon on public sites during the PLN phase? What is your honest assessment of whether I'll get more offers privately or publicly? Is there any benefit to you as my agent in keeping this off the public market? Can you show me examples of other homes you've successfully run through this 2-phase process? And for me, it's pretty much every house that we've sold. We are 100 homes closed and pending in 2026 so far, and I think almost all of them start in the PLN and go fully live once the staging and photos are back. This is good diligence. A great agent is going to be happy to answer your questions and let you know which plan they think works best for you. So here's the bottom line. The private listing network is a legitimate, powerful tool for the right seller in the right situation. It was built right here in Chicago. And MRED's PLN is genuinely one of the most robust private listing systems in the country. And that is why there's a disagreement, because if those houses stay in the PLN, Zillow can't sell those houses or those leads to realtors. But it's not a magic button, and it's not right for everyone. The sellers I've seen benefit the most are the ones who use it strategically as a testing ground and not a hiding place. They enter the PLN with a plan, get real market feedback, make smart adjustments, and then go live with confidence. That's a recipe for real estate success. If you're thinking about selling and you want to have a real conversation about what strategy makes sense for your specific home, your neighborhood, and your goals, I would love to connect. I'm an Illinois licensed realtor, I'm a Wisconsin licensed realtor, and I cover all the Chicago suburbs and southern Wisconsin. So drop a comment below with your biggest question about private listing networks. I am an expert and I will guide you in the right way. Hit follow to get more of this real estate content. I do a video a week. See you in the next video.